please put your name in the chat if you haven't already and your district so we know who's here. And we will go ahead and get started. Okay, so this is what we're going to go over today. We're just going to kind of go over what is monitoring, why we do it, how we schedule them, what you guys need to do before the actual meeting, and then how to read through the checklist. And then we'll kind of briefly go through each section. Title One is going to get all the love just because everyone has Title One. Not everyone has the other programs. And then at the very end, we will have time for questions, and then there will also be time for breakout rooms if you want to meet with your specialist or have a one-on-one conversation with one of us. There will be time for that at the end. Okay, so what is monitoring, and why are we on the list? Well, the short answer is it's a federal requirement, and it's your turn. We have moved from, oops, sorry. We do this on a 5-year cycle now, so it is just your turn. It should be on year 2 after your external visit. However, we do have a couple of districts that are kind of outliers, so we had to bump them up the list. If you want to find information on our team, you can go to the Nebraska Department of Education website, and under Programs, Services, and Initiatives, you can find us right there on federal programs. And then you go to our page. If you scroll way down, you can find all things monitoring. You can find the checklist, you can find the schedule, you can find your reviewers, you can find presentations. So that is how you can find everything with us. Like I said, we have moved to a 5-year schedule. Some districts had to be monitored this year to meet the 5-year span. What happened was when we moved to that 5-year schedule, some of you hadn't been monitored for about 3 years already. And so that way, 3 plus 5 would be 8, and that would put us way out of compliance. So compliance says you have to be monitored once every 5 years. So that is why we switched to this cycle. This is the last year that we're going to have this off year that you might be double monitored. So this will be the last year, and then we will be on a true 5-year cycle. Um, in the past, if you have been monitored, you know that one of your lovely reviewers comes to your district and we sit down with you and your team and we go through everything. Unfortunately, due to financial reasons, we are not allowed to be traveling as much anymore. So, pretty much all of these meetings are now going to be taking place via Zoom or a desk review. Um, if you are doing a desk review, you will submit all of your information, and then we will just let you know what is still needed. There will be a Zoom if you submit the information, and then there's still some things that we need. So if we still need some discussion, or maybe your reviewer just wants to have a quick chat with you, there will be a Zoom. So depending on your district and your reviewer, you will have either a desk review or a Zoom review, and that will be communicated to you via one of us, your reviewers, to let you know which one we will be doing. So before the meeting, so this is all kind of happening right now. One of your NDE reviewers will reach out and schedule a time for your monitoring review. Then once we have that, you will get an official monitoring letter from us on letterhead and everything, confirming your Zoom date or the time along with the visit that the programs are being monitored. So once you get that official letter, that makes it official. So then we will keep going with that. Plan on 1 to 3 hours on your Zoom. I would say typically if you just have Title One, plan on an hour. It's good for us just to kind of go through, get to know your program, get to all the questions, and make sure that we have time to answer everything. So plan on at least an hour. If you are a very large district and you take, or your district that takes Title One, Two, Three, and Four, plan on a little bit longer just so we have enough time to properly go through all your programs. When we are scheduling this team, or when we are scheduling this meeting, we usually just reach out to the superintendent or whomever that we talk to when we're dealing with your grant. When we are scheduling this time, if you guys could please make sure that that works for your entire team. For that Zoom meeting, we would really love to have everyone there at the table to to get through everything. So that could be your principal, that could be director of student services, could be your Title I teacher. So just trying to make sure that that date works for everyone. We don't know your calendar, so please don't schedule us on the day that you have the ACT. That would just be bad planning. So we're very flexible. So with the dates, when we reach out and say, "Hey, does this date work?" If it really doesn't work for you, that is fine. We have lots of time between now and May to have all these meetings. So when we send you the monitoring guide checklist, we ask that you fill it out and then we send it back. You send it back to us at least 2 weeks before our Zoom meeting. That gives us enough time to go through all your documentation, make sure everything is there, take all our notes. So that way, when we do have the meeting, it will go a little bit faster and we can just kind of work our way through the checklist instead of having to go through and fill in the checklist as we go. So 2 weeks beforehand, and we're going to ask that you make a comment in every section of the checklist that applies to your programs. And we're going to talk more about this, but um, if you are a Google district, you can link documentations, you can add folders, you can share things with us, however you guys store your information, whatever works best for you to share it with us is fine. Um, we do ask that you label each document if you're sending it in an email or uploading it in a folder so we know what it is. Sometimes we get the scan and then about 12 numbers. If you could change those names to say, like parent and family engagement policy or something like that, just to help us keep organized in all the documents, that would be great. Um, when we get into the monitoring guide checklist, it is a pretty long document. Just really wanted to make sure that everyone knows that it is not the Title I teacher's responsibility to fill out that entire checklist. It should be a team effort with the majority of the work falling on the shoulders of an administrator. The Title I teacher, there's one section for them to fill out about their meetings and their compacts and things like that. But just please know that do not take that checklist and hand it to your Title I teacher and say, "Here, please fill this out." That is not their responsibility. So when we send you this monitoring guide checklist, don't be scared. It looks a lot worse than it is. It's many pages, but you only need to complete the parts that pertain to your district. So if you are a Title I only district, there's only 2 sections that you need to fill out. This is a picture of what the front page looks like. Section 1, all districts, everyone has to fill out Section 1, and it takes up about 7 pages worth. But again, I'll show you, like every question is about this big, so it takes up a lot of space. So Section 2 can be completed by a team. That just kind of goes through depending on whether you're targeted or you're school-wide, but it goes through the rest of those programs a little more in depth. And so that could be completed by your team, maybe your MTSS team or whatever your Title I team is. So that front page will tell you exactly the sections and the page numbers that you need to fill out as you're looking at the monitoring guide checklist. So this is just a sample page. Actually, this is page number 1 of the checklist. So reading this, you want to take note that see how number 1 is in dark gray compared to the rest? Anything that is in dark gray, is the required documentation that we need. So anything here, it says continuous improvement plan provides guides, blah, blah, blah. That means we need your continuous improvement plan. We need a copy of it. We need the goals and objectives. And you can see with the check marks in the second column there, it tells you what you need to have submitted to us. Then, where it says district notes, then you guys get to just fill in that section with a couple of sentences of how that pertains to your district. So in your continuous improvement plan, you could say something about, what year you're in, what your goals are, a brief summary of that. You could give us links to anything that is on that checklist. Then we come in and we make notes in the very last column where it says NDE notes. So you guys, as the district, anything that pertains to you, so the pages that are highlighted for you, you have to fill in something in every comment box. So an example of what that would look like if it was filled out properly would kind of look like this without all the arrows. But For here, we have a board approved policy. We need the homeless policy. Well, they linked it there for us. They told us what it was. And then we came in and said that they have an abhorred policy by KSB when it was last reviewed. So these are our notes, but anything in yellow here is what you guys need to make sure that you have filled out. So something at least that you have a link to, like here's your transportation log with a couple sentences talking about the transportation for homeless children and youth. Your policy, like, so just a little blurb in each box of how that applies to your district. There does need to be something in every box, just like we will make notes in every box. So again, it can be a link to something, or it could just be a couple sentences of how that applies to your district. Like I said, sections in dark gray are required documentation that must be turned into NDE. So anything in dark gray must be uploaded into a folder or emailed to one of us. Sections that are not in gray do not require submitted documents, but should be filled out. So in this specific one, like here, this talks about your ESSA application. Well, we don't need a link to your ESSA application. We already have access to that. But you could put something in here about, you worked with so and so to do your ESSA application and it has been final approved. So that's just kind of how to start filling out the checklist. Um, Again, here's just another example without all of the highlights and arrows and everything. So this would just be the very first page, a link to the continuous improvement plan, a link to the action plan, a link to your goals and objectives, and the summary of data analysis. This would be a perfect example of how to fill out that first section. We have a sentence, we have some links. It's not dark grade, so we just need a brief little sentence here. We do not need a link to any documentation. Okay. The next thing that we really look at are time and efforts. Now, time and efforts, we have a new handy dandy calculator that you can use to help you do time and efforts, which a lot of you might have already done with us as we've been helping you complete your ESSA application. This template can be found on our federal programs team under forms, time and effort, and then time and effort calculator. What this does is all you need is 3 bits of information. So once you enter one, the total annual salary of whatever teacher you're trying to pay, the total base salary, should say, without any extracurricular or anything, the benefits that they take for the district, and then how much your grant award is. So once you fill in those 3 bits of information, it will kick out what the percentage of that person is, how much of, if it's 100% you can pay with the grant, or maybe it's only like 50%. It'll tell you how much you should be paying them in your 100s and how much you should be paying them in your 200s with this grant money. So it's been we have connected with the finance team to come up with this, and we've gotten a lot of great feedback from it to make sure that we are helping you guys understand time and efforts. So whatever comes out on this percentage, this should be the percentage on your time and effort for your Title I teacher or anyone who's getting paid with a federal grant. Okay, so here's an example. We have a base salary of a teacher, we have the benefits of that teacher, and then the grant award they had here was $75,000. That means with this grant, you could pay 91% of that teacher's salary and benefits with the grant. Then within GMS, in your grant, the yellow and green numbers, those should be in your grant on your 100s and your 200s, roughly. Okay, and I believe Rhonda's going to put a link to this in the chat for you if you would like to keep this. We highly recommend that you use it. It's a great tool. The other thing that has been kind of new that you can find in the same spot under time and efforts is we have updated the semi-annual time and effort form so they all kind of look the same. We've noticed over the past couple of years with monitoring that a lot of districts use different looking forms, which is okay as long as it has the same information. But we're really trying to work for one unified form that we can use it'll pass all the auditors, so you guys can use this. So this is just a blank page of the semi-annual form that we made that we would appreciate if you start using. Um, The reason that we have these, because this is a big part of our monitoring, but it's also going to be a big part of your fiscal monitoring, is that your time and effort must match your grant, which must match NSSRS, which must match your bookkeeping. So again, we're big with examples here. This is an example of your grant, of a grant, I should say. We have a teacher in there, we're paying them. We have enough money to pay for um, their whole salary and benefits. This is the grant. What just came up here, this is NSSRS showing 100%, and the base salary is also in there, should be the same. Then when you fill out your time and effort, we have 100%. So it matches. Your grant matches NSSRS, which matches your time and effort. What if you don't have enough money to pay for to fully pay for your title teacher with your grant? That is fine. That's where we use the calculator template that we just talked about. So here, we're going to say that this teacher is 16%. You only have enough to pay for 16% of total salary and benefits. Well, that's 16% in the grant, 16% on NSSRS, 16% on the time and effort. Okay. Your time and efforts, when you put them back in here, should be equaling 100%. So for this, they're 16% title funded, but then the rest of the time they're district funded and as an elementary counselor or whatever. But the other name of the program is your other funding source, which would be district funded 84%. Okay, so this should all equal 100% once you put in your numbers. And we will be collecting time and efforts when we come out. When you go to fill that out on your monitoring guide checklist, you could just tell us, you have teachers that you pay for the grant. Here's teacher A's time and effort. Here's teacher B's time and effort. So this would suffice. This would be a great example of what you guys would put. And then NDE would make your comments over here that we've looked over your time and efforts and they all look great. Okay, so that was kind of a lot right away. That was a lot of information in 20 minutes. Does anyone have any specific questions over filling out the monitoring guide checklist, time and efforts, or the time and effort calculator? Do you have any questions on those three things? Okay, we will move on. It's always the running joke here on the federal programs team that anytime anyone asks us a question, the answer always starts with, well, it depends, blah, blah, blah. So, and if you're going to ask us a question, we'd probably say it depends. Here's some other documentation that we must have when we come out to monitor. We must have a copy of your homeless policy. We must have a copy of the homeless certificate for your district liaison, whomever that is. It needs to be completed within the last 3 years. Your district Title I parent and family engagement policy, as well as your Title I foster student transportation policy. Also, these slides will be posted on our website and sent out to you guys. So don't feel like you have to be hurrying real quick to write all this stuff down. We will share these out with you. All right, the parent and family engagement policy can also be a procedure. So sometimes we get a little hung up on the fact that we say policy versus procedure. This can also be a procedure. Every district, everyone has a policy from your either KSB or Perry Law or whomever you work with for your parent and family engagement. That will suffice only if you only have one building in your district. What we're needing now, and this is kind of new, is that we need examples of how this is being met. And so as you are filling this out and giving us all the information, have a link, and it could just be a link to a Google Doc with a paragraph that you are telling us of how this is being met. Or maybe it's a link to your Facebook page that shows all these fun engagement activities that you've made. It could be just a list of all the things that you do of how you are engaging parents and family members in your kids' education. You can find examples of this. If you have more than one elementary school or more than one building um, serving Title I, then you might need a combined district and school parent-family engagement policy because everyone has a district one, but if you have more than one building, each school needs their own because it is highly unlikely that every elementary school is doing the exact same thing every single day for parent and family engagement. So this might just be an additional thing you need to fill out, and if so, you can find it right here on our website, and I think Rhonda might put it in the chat as well. So this is just a sample of what it looks like. It shouldn't take you more than 10 minutes to do. It's a fillable PDF of just what are some things you do to get parents involved. You just fill out each box and then you submit that to us. The student transportation policy slash procedure, this you guys should all have by now. The law firms have been updating this. It might just be embedded in your student transportation policy, but it does have to address the best interest determination for students in foster care and a transportation plan slash procedure for students who are in foster care. So make sure that that is something that you guys have. We will be collecting it. Then we have required annual parent meeting documentation. This is where we will bring in our Title I teacher. So we need evidence of an annual parent meeting. We need that annual parent meeting. We need the agenda or the presentation if your teachers did like some Google Slides or a PowerPoint, um, or minutes from the meeting. A sign-in sheet from the meeting. Even if nobody comes, we still need a sign-in sheet with at least maybe the superintendent, the title teacher, parent from the building. We do need a sign-in sheet from the meeting. We need a copy of the Title I compact. And then we will need to be able to see your self-review or for school-wide or your targeted self-review. If you have a non-public who participates in Title I, remember they are automatically all targeted programs. And so if you have a non-public there, remember we do have to have a TAS self-review or a targeted self-review from them every single year. So we will want to see a copy of those. We will need your parent meeting and compact. This is just what the page looks like in the the checklist. So as you can see, they're both dark gray. So that means we have to have that information. And then as you go through the little checklists in the second column, we just make sure that we have everything in everything that is there. So some of those checklists could be, you know, 3 things that are all in one document, which is totally fine. But we want to make sure that that is filled out on your checklist. And this is what it looks like in that checklist. Again, the non-publics must do this every year. So this is the section of the checklist where if you do have a non-public, they do have to do a task self-review. So also make sure that this is filled out if you have non-publics. Those are just all the questions on that. And then for a self for the school wide, these are just the other questions that we ask you. Now, if you guys note here that nothing is in dark gray, but we do need a sentence or two, and you can even if it's not dark gray, you can still put links in there. So a description of the process for conducting your needs assessment. If you have a matrix or you have something to use as your needs assessment, you can put a link in there. We'd love to see it. Or you could just put a description of there of how you go about conducting your needs assessments. So the school-wide is a little bit shorter than the targeted for the monitoring guide checklist, but we just need evidence of all these items. And then if you are Title I only, that's all you have to do. You are done. So that is the end of the required checklist information if you are a Title I only. Please remember that every section of the checklist needs comments from the district, even though documents are not required. And if policies are being discussed and we're talking policies, please link that section to your actual policy or to your district website where we can easily find it. Um, Again, gosh, we put a lot of examples in here for you guys, but this would just be an example of how a page should look like if when no documentation is required, but we're talking about policy. So here we're talking about financial management, the most fun policies out of all the policies, but they just said it here. These are the policies that they are. We looked at them, said they're good to go. Okay, so again, it does not have to be a huge long explanation in every box, but just something so we know that you have what we're asking for. Okay, for Title II, the only thing that is required if you guys take Title II is an annual needs assessment to support the rationale of the funding. Okay, now the Title II section of the checklist is much, much smaller. Um, the needs assessment, your comprehensive needs assessments that you did with your external visit, can be used here. So we're not asking you to reinvent the wheel at all. You can use annual needs assessments. You can pull those from your CIP. From the Title III section, the things that are required are your district parent notification letters, in English or other languages. Pathwise, it used to be, or your parent notices, it used to be, or sorry, Pathwise K-12 parent notices used to be called Transact. So if you are a Transact person, it's now called Pathwise. Um, so we need your parent notification letters, and then we need NDE Rule 15, your annual program review written report. So the rest of the checklist still needs to be filled out, but those are the only required documents that you need. If you do not take Title III, when you go back, let me go back here. These boxes say yes, no, NA. You would just put X's in the no column if you do not take Title II or Title III. Title IV is kind of the same thing as Title II in the fact that all we need is your needs assessment tool. If you're over 30,000, or we can use your compre or your CIP if you're under 30,000, just to know how did you know how you were going to use these funds? What did you use to determine that this was a need and that's why you're using your funds this way? Again, if you don't take Title IV, you just put an X and an NA in the column. Okay, I think, guys, that's it. So now we're ready for questions. That was a lot of information in a half hour, and so we have a lot of people on. We are here to answer any questions that you may have. So does anyone want to come off mute, or Rhonda, do we have anything in the chat with people asking questions?
There
Or
is a question in the chat, Anne.
okay.
What is that we have to have from non-public each year? TAS, self-review, and what else?
You need your self-review, and then well, for the monitoring purposes, I believe that might be all we need for monitoring. But you still have to fill out the rest of the checklist for the non-public. But as far as required documentation, um, it's not I don't believe it's something you guys submit. It's just something that should be linked in the checklist. Is that right? Does anyone on the team have any more to add to that? Okay.
I
Any other
think that's it.
questions? Awesome. Okay. Well, that is